Hello, and welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of leadership and organizational culture. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers. Together, we're here to guide you on a journey of personal and professional growth. Every week, we bring you insights, stories, and strategies to help you and your company thrive in today's dynamic world.
So whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just eager to make a positive impact, you are in the right place. Let's jump right into today's show and champion a culture of purpose and passion. Welcome to Champion Your Culture. Yo.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Hey, Taco Mondays is really getting to me right now.
Yeah.
Gosh, man. Lunch was a lot, brother.
It was, I feel like we're swimming through some queso right now.
Queso mixed with some salsa.
Oh, man.
Ooh, jeez.
I think as we, we kick off this month of May.
Yeah.
That we should no longer have Taco Mondays.
Okay.
Or just tacos in general.
At least for lunch. Tacos is like one of those meals. It's like for dinner, really.
Yeah.
What's it like lunch anymore now? Lunch needs to be like really light for me.
Yeah.
Like breakfast, almost nothing. Lunch, just real light. Maybe a protein shake. Maybe just like, I don't know why. I just don't want to eat a whole lot all day. But by the time I get home, well, we had to get to a different restaurant today because our original one was shut down. So yeah. It's a whole thing. Thank you guys for joining us today on Champion Your Culture, the podcast. We're always excited about meeting new people in the audience. So if you're out there watching us on LinkedIn or wherever you watch, comment, say where you're from. We want to hear from you, or just reach out to us. I know, George, you get DMs through the entire show. So.
Yeah. And listen, I want to encourage people, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching us from live. If you're watching live, go ahead and just put it on the chat. Don't DM me all the time. It's very difficult to talk to Ryan and hear all his great insights and also read the comments, but I do enjoy those. Don't stop them, but don't stop kicking it out. Keep them coming.
There we go.
Hey, throw them in
the
chat.
song has already jumped in.
The
2.5 minutes in, and you're singing already.
We're singing already. It's going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good
day. Because
all my troubles don't fly away. Something like that.
Yeah. They say, let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Yeah. So all right, 3 songs already. All right,
we're going in.
Yeah,
going in. We're going in. Oh, cool. Hey, that's funny. But we want to welcome everybody. We appreciate everybody joining us as always here on Check Your Culture, the podcast.
Yeah, we'd love for you to subscribe, like, follow, share. We want to continue to grow the audience so we can impact more and more business professionals and great human beings that want to bring this idea of bringing your soul to work and championing people and really being a leader that cares about the human side of business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
thank you for being with us and doing all those things. And today's topic is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, we started off last week with part 1 on really understanding burnout from an employer standpoint.
Yeah.
And a point of view. Today, we're really going to focus on one of my favorite topics, and it's built around, again, mental health and really rehumanizing this workplace from an employee standpoint.
Yeah.
As we talk a lot about, personally, and I'm very passionate about this whole self-leadership mindset and concept, and I don't want to say concept, but lifestyle, because we believe that in order for you to lead others, you must first lead yourself.
Exactly. Even with the conversation last week, when we talk about like being able to be aware of it if it's happening in your team.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, even if you're a leader in business, you're still an employee.
Yep.
So not only do you need to be concerned about or aware of the mental health and the challenges that your team might be facing in terms of the burnout, but also for yourself. And I think this is a conversation that everybody really needs to have with themselves. And it starts with how am I doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and so this is a really interesting conversation, I think, because we've talked about mental health quite a bit on this show, and certainly this is something that's a reoccurring theme, because we know this is a topic that's really needed, especially right now within the context of business, and how it seems like business is expanding.
Right.
Like during the pandemic, everything kind of shrunk,
Right.
and that's just been expanding. And now it seems like there's a lot of, we're in the season right now of mergers and acquisitions, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it all the time. That's all I'm hearing. It's like, we're growing, we're changing, we're growing, we're changing.
Yep.
You know, and
there's a lot of adapting too, as the space, you know, depending on what your industry in, there's a lot of merging and acquisitions going on because of I think people understand, like we went through a tough period over the course of the last 3.5, 4 years. And you know, there's a lot of competition out there. And for me, it's like, if we can do it better together, why not? Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's that really shows. And I got a couple of friends I went to high school with. Speaking of this, they just combined their business together in the real estate market. Instead of competing, they kind of joined together. So shout out to my guys back from the Ben Davis alumni.
Ooh, Ben Davis.
Ben Davis. Shout out to Eric Armstrong and Antonio Lisby, that's doing some great things with their new company that's going to be doing some crazy growth as well. So I'm excited about them.
Yeah.
But we see this all the time. And what was really special about it is, and I bring those two up, is it takes humility as a person to want to join together and do business and not worry or care about who the alpha is, understanding that if we bring our resources together, right, there's so much that can be done. And I think that shows a lot, especially not just with them too, but outside just businesses and organizations that we see doing these things, the humility that it takes, and the wisdom as well. It takes a lot of wisdom to say, hey, listen, this is what we can do.
Well, it's really difficult, because when you're entrepreneurial or you're a business owner, or, you know, you've built the business,
right,
it's difficult sometimes because people don't see themselves separate from what they're building.
Right.
So when they're building their business, they see themselves as building almost their own identity.
Yeah.
And so you talk about humility, and I think that's a really important place to start when we're talking about mental health, because it does take a level of humility, not only to say that and to work with somebody in business, but let's think about in the context of what we're talking about. When there's acquisitions, mergers, when there's growth, when there's change, it's going to impact the mental health of people in a more profound way. It's going to be more evident throughout change where my mental health is, right?
Yeah.
How much can I handle before I break? You know, we talked about, like, how do you know if your team is burnt out? Well, you've got to look for the signs of them burning up, because you don't just burn out overnight. You burn up and then you burn out, right? Yeah. So like the smoke signals in yourself, and being able to identify that takes a level of humility. Yeah. To be able to stop and say, all right, Ryan, how you doing? You know, I would say one of the practices that I've done in my own life, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit to getting really practical, but just in the conversation for my own journey, over the last couple of years, I've spent more time just looking at myself in the mirror and talking to myself, like legit, you know, like Issa Rae in the what's the show that she was on? Oh goodness, I'm forgetting what it is now. It's the one that made her really famous and popular. Insecure.
Oh, Insecure.
I think it's called Insecure. So anyway, so she, during the show, she'll like break, and then she'll be like talking to herself in the mirror, you know, like, have you ever done that where you're going to go into a meeting with someone and you got to pep yourself up and be like, all right, George, you got this, man, you got this. But that's what I'm doing with my mental health. Like, look at myself in the eyes. You know, when you look at somebody in the eyes, you see them differently. Yeah. We don't look at each other in the eyes. It feels weird, doesn't it?
No, not for me. I
intentionally though, when you sit,
I'm an eye type. I know
you love my eyes. I know.
I'm an eye guy.
It's all good, man.
And part of that was, one, I was forced to look in the eyes from my grandma.
All right, nice.
And so
that's how she taught you, or mentored you,
or beat me.
Mentorship.
Yeah.
Discipline. Yeah.
Discipline is love.
That's right. Sometimes this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the truth is that, I was always encouraged to look in the eye. Now, one of the weaknesses were when I felt not necessarily insecurity, when I felt as if I was below or somebody was more, better than me, or
you end up looking down.
It was kind of like,
away.
Do I belong in this group? Like I'm looking around, like why am I here? And I get in those. We find ourselves sometimes in those, and I've been in jobs and positions where I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard to look into the eyes, and even in
I was thinking
myself.
people ask themselves that every day.
Yeah,
I do
every day. Yeah.
That's what I ask myself in the mirror. Yeah. How did you get here, Ryan? No, but yeah, like
but it's difficult for us to look at others in the eye. We're not even taught to look ourselves. And we hear the song by Michael Jackson, "The Man in the Mirror." But we're not looking at the man in the mirror.
I tell you what, it's different.
Reflection.
It's really interesting because like it's been just a few times that kind of sparked it in me, like I said a couple years ago, and it's been a practice since, where I really intentionally stop just looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And intentionally not only just to see my reflection, but I want to see myself. You're more than what people see of you. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we see ourselves almost like we're an acquaintance rather than do we really know ourselves? Are we casual friends with ourselves, or are we best friends? Do we really know ourselves well? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody that knows you, they know, like has spent time with you and has listened to you and has felt what you feel. And there's an empathy there. And I think it takes a humility to look at oneself in that way, but also it takes a vulnerability of saying like, I want to really know, Ryan, how you're doing right now, and to do so in a way that captures the moment where you're pausing to be able to do so, and for me, that's been really beneficial because I deal with all kinds of mental health stuff. My mom, many of you know, as you do, George, died when I was 6 years old from suicide. She was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic when I was 5. My dad, prior to that, had come back from Vietnam and had some pretty psychotic mental breakdown, PTSD, all of that, and has dealt with depression and anxiety his whole life. And, so there's always been like within my family, I've been around a lot of that. And I think being around that as well has taught me the importance of caring for oneself, and doing so is really takes you knowing yourself really well. Yeah. I think a lot of us are more acquaintances in terms of how well we know us. We know about ourselves almost like a web page, but to fully know the full scope of who we are, I think we need to take a moment and pause in our life and work and be able to say, hey, where am I at in all of this? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Am I still doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. So let's launch into this for those who are watching, and we want to really get practical from a individual standpoint and really help you see this process through, especially when dealing with burnout, dealing with mental health, and being aware of those things. And some of the keys that we want to bring is more into that self-leadership as we were talking about. So checking in with yourself as an employee is so vital, making sure that it's so easy for us to ask. And we're very intentional here when we ask somebody, how are you doing? Like, it means something. It's not just a, hey, shoot the break. If we're just shooting the break and walking past each other, hey, how you, hi there.
I know. I catch myself sometimes saying, how you doing? And then they're like, hi. And I'm like, no, for real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to check myself in that way, to make sure I'm checking in with other people. Same with yourself is what you're saying.
Yeah. And because for us, if we're talking and living by the core values as other organizations look at it, we call them our 5 promises. Care is one of those. We would care. We'll show that we care. Yeah. Right. And part of that caring is not just saying, hey, Ryan.
It's action.
Right. It's action. Like, how are you really doing it, for you? And meaning it. Yeah, we got a lot of huggers. We're huggers. Yeah. And there's fist bumpers. We got a little bit of everying.
It's like this morning I was trying to get in your office and you're like, what do you need? I'm in a meeting. I'm like, I want a hug.
I need a hug. But showing that you care, right? Yeah. Knowing what that is. And we're not saying, hey, go out there and hug people. Make sure you know people's circle. Some people have a purple. Say, hey, don't make no purple here, right? So
some weirdos watching. He's like, ooh, I get to hug a bunch of people in the office.
No, make sure you get permission, and you know that person's.
No, that's true too, because like we all practice self-care and we all connect to each other and also to ourselves in different ways. And I think that's important to know too. Not everybody's a hugger.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to feel the same way that we feel. I'm a very feely person. So when it comes to like mental health and the ability for me to cope with stress and deal with the realities of life and all of that, I'm going to kind of like be very feely about it.
Yeah.
You know, but at the core of it, not everybody's the same way.
Right.
You know, so
more emotionally connected.
I don't know.
Is it emotional?
Well, I think everything's emotional. So I'm not, we would say that somebody that is very, very feely is very emotional, but then somebody's like, I'm not very emotional and they got 7 kids. Yeah. Like it took a little bit of emotion. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like I'm a man, I'm not emotional. Yeah, like so, whatever. I saw you at the ball game.
Yeah,
don't lie.
Got a little passion behind it.
Yeah, but it's like not just that, but it's any kind of like, the ability to have the capacity to cope, and to deal with the stressors and all of that of life. But so
let's dig into this. There's 3 things that we really want to kind of talk on. There's going to be a lot of mental health awareness and self-leadership. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about some of the keys to self-leadership that leads to checking in with yourself, and then ending it with that check-in, how to check in with yourself and as an employee, as an individual, especially for those who are leaders in your workplace today. So talking about mental health awareness and self-leadership, one of the most important things obviously is educating. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on doing is not just talking about something, but educating ourselves.
Yeah.
Whether that's, hey, we got expertise here in this building, or reaching out within our network of people and to discuss this, but really educating yourself about mental health. And some of those common things we talked a little bit last week when we opened at that door, not just waiting for the smoke, the fire, the smoke to come out, but really checking before people get burnt out, checking that fire, right?
Yeah.
And making sure they understand those things. So understanding those conditions, what are some of those conditions within the fire, whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, right? Things that they kind of get through, whether it's signs of depression and people lead into that, where they're standing alone, where it's, hey, I noticed that you're dealing a lot of your workplace used to have lots of light. Now you're sitting in the dark. Are you good? Are you meditating? Right. Yeah. It's not necessarily always negative, right, on reasons. So you want to not seclude these situations and say assuming. It's because that's the worst thing to do for somebody who is going through anxiety or burnout. Is they're not going to openly admit based on your assumption just because you were right about it.
Well,
they don't want people to know what they're going through either.
Yeah, it's not very helpful for someone to come up to you and be like, "Oh, you look depressed.
You look burnt out."
No, but I think from last week's understanding of how we deal with that on a team level, but also like how do we check in with ourselves?
Yeah.
So in the conversation today, in terms of like, am I okay? And knowing that when I don't feel okay, that doesn't mean I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I am not my emotion. I have emotions. I have thoughts. I'm a thinker. So I have thoughts, but I am not my thought. So I'm not the emotion that I'm feeling. And that's something that I need to learn in my own self-care, is that having enough self-awareness and even through those times where I am feeling overwhelmed or stressed. I mean, we look at the statistics and from everything that we can see, 120,000 people die from stress-related work or work stress, and that's every year. That would be considered a pandemic.
Yeah.
But we don't really treat it as such, right? We kind of let everybody kind of deal with it on their own. Individual companies might support your own journey of mental health, but you have to own it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this week is all about. Like, I want you to work in a culture where everybody's supportive and it's a supportive mental health, like, bubble of happiness, and people are there and leadership knows about, these type of topics, and there's a supportive culture around it, but not everybody's afforded that. Some of us go to work and we just go to work and we don't have a culture of good. We don't have leaders bringing their soul to work. Right. We're just showing up. So what I'm saying is you've got to start by owning your own mental health.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Well, you've got to be aware of yourself first. You've got to continue to check in with yourself and know if you're doing okay or if you need help. And I think the only way that we would know that is if we check in. We get caught up in work, and this is why it's considered work related stress, is because work compounds the stress of life, and some of us use work as a way to avoid what's going on in life. And so we overwork ourselves and we say, well, my life's a mess because they're overworking me. Yeah, we never set any boundaries over here because we do better in the chaos than we do actually dealing with our own stuff. And I think it's really important to start from a place where we recognize that we are a mental being, that we have a mind, and we have a capacitor that needs to work correctly in order for us to deal with and cope with the stressors that we have to deal with that are only compounded by work and life and just your everyday stuff. And then as we're talking about how there's so much tumultuous change around us in the workplace, this becomes even a greater conversation that we need to start by saying, am I aware of my mental health? Have I checked in with myself lately? In the last couple weeks, have I stopped to pause and to spend time with me? And I think that's a really good place to start. It's a good place to start by sitting down and really being real with ourselves.
Yeah. So awareness is the key, a starter of understanding where you are as an individual.
And understanding what mental health is, right? Educating yourself around that, because maybe you don't even realize you're dealing with mental health stuff.
Yeah. I like the awareness. I think about building that resiliency. And then, as you said, checking in. When I think about, for me, when I had to build this resilient, and in a sense, give myself permission to have authority over that thought.
Yeah.
Right. Because so often for me, younger George, emotions was really dictated not necessarily by myself, but what I surrounded myself with. I allowed other people to control that emotion, right?
Right.
If others were, they were setting the temperature. So if others was coming in energetic,
if they were hot, you turned hot.
Yeah. If they were cold, I was cold. Like if they were depressed, I wanted to be all things to all people. Like I didn't want you to suffer by yourself. And I wasn't going anything, but because you were going anything, I was putting.
Do you think you're also maybe an empath?
It's potential. I don't even know what that is. You want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, yeah, we could. It could be, you could assume that you don't have the, like you're just feeling what other people feel because you don't have your own self-identity. But an empath is someone who really carries that empathy at a stronger level where it's part of their nature.
Yeah.
And so an empath is going to feel what other people feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I just wanted to educate others. I know that sounded like,
I don't have a full definition, like I'm not a dictionary, but yeah, I mean,
it's essentially, you think about my life, even early on growing up and being a man of the house at a young age with, a little sister and two younger brothers.
Yeah.
I had to take on responsibilities and roles, at a young age.
That does something to you.
And it creates a unnecessary burden.
Yeah.
In a sense that I'm become used to having to carry the burden for those who I see. Right.
Yeah.
The reason why I got into pastoral ministry is I had a burden for people who looked like me and came from where I came from. It was a desire. I wanted to make sure that I did what changed my life for somebody else. It was that burden. Was it my path or was it my calling? I think it's a lifestyle. It's who I am. It's still what I do today. I have that burden for leaders.
Yeah.
Right. I have that burden for organizations to create that culture and leadership that really allows people to bring their soul to work, to really impact. And so that burden has become my why in a sense, right? It's what I do, why I do it, in a sense. But I had to create and develop that awareness. But then build resiliency around practicing self-care, understanding what it is, number one, that there is self-care. And I'm not talking even just about self-care in the sense of, hey, I go get mani-pedis every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's true. It's the type of self-care help. It relaxed me. My self-care first started with me falling in love with the thing I hated the most. You know what that is? Being alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like George being alone, whether it's just one in nature, but I found my place that I became comfortable being alone
with yourself,
with myself. And
Yeah.
I was always waterfalls. There's something about water and just being in the nature, hearing, whether it's a state park, whatever it may be, finding a place where there's not too many distractions, right? Not too many noises. And I can find that place. But for a long time, I hated that. Because that's how I felt growing up, right? And so taking yourself back to that place of healing, to where what you once hated, there's reasons why. That abandoned feeling. But what I didn't realize is that I was abandoning myself, right?
By not being with you. And that's the idea, is because it's easy sometimes to see it in other people. Like last week, how you see it in your team, or like you can notice it in someone. But when you've not taken the time with yourself, what you're doing, as I was talking about earlier, is you're distracting yourself from you. And we do that in a myriad of different ways. But in terms of what you're talking about in building resilience, it could look like the mani or petties. It could look like the walk in the woods, or it could look like saying no to people that you used to say yes every time. See what I'm saying? Like saying no to someone is saying yes to yourself many times. Yeah. So for me, those boundaries, and I defined boundaries last week, and I've heard this before, but it's a boundary is the distance that I set between you and me, so that I can keep loving you and keep loving myself. And that's the idea, is like people without boundaries are always trying to make sure that others are taken care of. And if we don't have boundaries, then we don't have the space and capacity to heal, because boundaries give us the space to love ourselves. Boundaries give us the time to spend with ourselves. If we're constantly trying to fix and heal everybody else, which is why you went into ministry, right? Myself as well. I have a burden to heal people who hurt, because I know what it is to hurt, and hurt people, but healed people heal people. And as we start to heal and as we start to build this resilience, I think it's a beautiful thing, because it gives us an opportunity to really show up for other people from a place where we've already showed up for ourselves. It's really difficult to show up for everybody else and then think, what am I going to do for Ryan now? I have nothing left. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's so for that next step for me, after I built that checking in, was, and that's the ABCs: awareness, build resilience, check in.
Nice.
Just made that off myself. I should write
ABC. Awareness, build resilience, check in.
Build.
Yeah. And so checking in, right? So we talk about this within the workplace. If leaders don't check in, people check out. And if we don't check in with ourselves, then we check out. And what happens is, when we check out, is we're not only are we not practicing self-care, we may be practicing self-harm by not setting up boundaries. You see what I'm saying? By not saying no to others, by not taking the time with ourselves to be alone. It's harmful to keep avoiding those conversations with ourselves and to avoid us. You ever see somebody that you don't want to talk to at Walmart? Walking down the aisle, man.
The most difficult thing is when you don't want to talk or see somebody in your own house.
Dodge, duck, and dodge.
You ever been in your own house and like, man, what are they doing here?
But like at Walmart though, you like avoid it. You like skip the aisle. But we do that with ourselves. When we're dealing with
I love everybody to visit my house, by the way. Just don't
exactly.
Sometimes.
Everybody's like, when was the last time I was at George's house? Yesterday. But that's what we do. We avoid ourselves in the Walmart aisle. Because we don't want to deal with what was going on. And if you don't deal with what's going on, it will deal with you. And that's a level of like, we can't keep avoiding ourselves.
So let's talk about some of these keys, self-reflection. I think we're kind of moving down and moving along. When it comes to self-leadership, and taking that time of self-reflection. We talk about self-care and what that means and what it looks like. It looks different for everybody, but that time of reflection, I think, is something that you really helped me with and hold me accountable. And I want to encourage people, as we're talking about this, and whether it's hitting home or it's something that you've gone through, just remember for us to always recognize when for me, I always have to recognize when I need support, and don't hesitate to reach out. Right, support for myself, support for others, especially around the mental health. And that I want to make that statement out there, whether it's programs that you have, if you work, offers different things. Some organizations are getting really
better at
opening up the opportunities not to deal with this. It's not thrust on HR, and HR like getting actual opportunities and networks out there for their guidance and or assistance. So round of applause for those people.
Yep.
They're out there. But the reflection part was very interesting to me, learning how to take time, and not even take time. The most important thing is to make time, right? To set the time aside to reflect on whatever it may be, whether it's values, whether it's goals, whether it's purpose, checking in and reflecting on those concepts, understanding the weaknesses or the strengths that you may deal with and or have across, but that self-reflection. Asking yourself, those questions, and maybe for you, for us, for me, having a set core of questions that I have to ask myself. One built around my identity. Who are you, George? Reminding myself, not because I've forgotten, but sometimes you have to speak over yourself. And speak those things into existence. There's nothing like the power of your voice. Which is why when you encourage other people, it means something to them.
Well, I know you can talk yourself out of a lot of good things in life. And so if that's true, then words are power, because if you can talk yourself out of it, then you can talk yourself into it.
To a lot of different things.
To a lot of cool stuff too, right? Like you can have faith and speak of the vision of what you see in the future. I think when you talk about self-leadership, it's really important to be strategic around it. Like I always say, a leader without a plan is just a manager. Because it takes a plan and it takes strategy to be able to lead well. And I think when we think about our own mental health and our well-being and our self-care practices and how we set that up in terms of like self-reflection, when you said self-reflection, the first thing that comes to mind is anytime I'm like walking down the street by my house and I like look over at the window, I always want to check myself a little bit. Is my shirt straight? You know what I'm saying? Is my hat crooked? I just kind of do a self-reflect, and that's a physical thing. But what we're saying is let's do a self-reflection of our emotions, of our soul. When we bring our soul to work, let's self-reflect. Let's get deep inside of ourselves and say, like, to your point, who am I? Right? What do I really want in this life? Where am I headed? And who do I want to be when I get there? What's this total self-reflection of my life and what I'm really wanting out of this? What are my desires, my hopes, my dreams? How is that motivating my self-care? What do I want in terms of goal setting? Like, we think of self-care as just, those little micro moments of caring for oneself, but also it's being strategic. It's like, if I'm not strategic, I end up in a battle I shouldn't be fighting 2 weeks from now because I didn't care for myself today. You know what I mean? I didn't get enough sleep. I stayed up till 2:00 every night. And now I'm wondering 2 weeks later why I'm tired, depressed, sad, dealing with anxiety at a heightened level. It's because I wasn't strategic about leading my life well. I got to know how much sleep I need. When do I need to eat? How much water do I drink today? All this stuff seems very practical. This is all about your mental health. Now, it goes beyond that when we deal with, in terms of the self-care piece, as we go into the mental health conversation, it could be, as you talked about, where it goes beyond just, I need to check in with myself and be aware of it and do these practical things. It could be where I need to check in with myself and also check in with someone else and say, hey, I need some help. Because mental health isn't just about emotions and feelings and, what I feel in the moment or my emotion that day. Because all that's up and down. It's like the waves of the ocean. It comes and goes. But when we're really dealing with stress and anxiety and depression, where it's impacting our work, it's impacting our relationships with others, it's impacting our ability to sleep, our ability to eat or desire to, where it's taken us away from anything that we love in life and hobbies and everything. My therapist, just in total vulnerability, described me one day when I was dealing with all of this as, Ryan, it seems like you look at life and everything is just plain oatmeal. And I was like, that is exactly how life feels right now.
Yeah.
There's no flavor to it. It's just plain oatmeal.
Yeah.
It just was like, just eat it to get through the moment. You know what I'm saying? And so, going to a therapist is something that's really important to do as well. So in terms of self-reflection, it's saying, what do I need as well? Like, do I need to fix this shirt? In the reflection, like, what if I see my reflection right now, what is it that Ryan needs? Yeah. Do I need to actually take the next step and talk to somebody?
And I think this is a challenge for a lot of people in leadership. This is looked at as the feely, emotional, touchy, like just get in and do your dang on job is the mentality that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. But the reality is as these things, these simple things that can be done, it breeds a healthy person. Healthy person creates a healthy culture, and a healthy culture creates a healthy business,
which is healthy performance,
then it increases everything. Right. And so I want to encourage people, especially for those, and I'm just talking straight to the people that think that this is not something for the workplace. If it's not something for the workplace, then you shouldn't have a workplace for people.
Oh, yeah.
So it's important to make sure we're taking care of that. I wanted to say that that little soundbite, just because the having permission to do so, and not necessarily, I'm not saying, hey, go seek permission from your boss. The most important person you get permission from is yourself.
Yeah.
Like giving yourself permission to care for you just as much as you care for that business, just as much as you care for your team. If you're in leadership, you want their growth, you want their development. This is something that you need to give yourself permission. Say, I give myself permission to care for me. More importantly, there's no greater person to care for than yourself.
Turns out everywhere you go, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So you have to start caring for yourself right away. You know what I mean? And I think investing that in yourself pays dividends long term.
Yeah.
When you do that internal work, you're like, I'm going to look at myself as potential and as opportunity. And how do I connect that potential? How do I grow that potential?
Right.
How do I grow that opportunity? Right. What's the strategy that I need to lead in order that even as I'm going through the challenges of mental health and dealing with that I still find hope in what I'm seeing around me.
Right.
I still see the potential within me. And I think those are really key things. And I think it's important during times where we are struggling, or whatever word we want to use in it, dealing with, walking through, processing, all of those things, that we surround ourselves with people that are supportive.
Yeah.
To your point, it really sucks when you're going through stuff, but you don't have anybody to turn to in the midst of it. It's like you really want to have core people, even at work or at home or in your life, that know you really well as you do. You know what I'm saying? That are able to say, hey, I see what's going on. Yeah. So I think that's one of the self-care practices too, is just surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah. Good people that's going to help you stay accountable, whether it's
healthy people
that's going to help you stay accountable, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, even financial, whatever that health is, whatever that Lee, as I always say, what Lee is in your life that's not healthy. But also figuring out what's best for you, because I think for me, another example that I had to learn is what recharges Ryan doesn't necessarily recharge George.
Yeah.
When it comes to self-care, right? And your well-being. So figuring out what activity, what is it that takes place that really recharges you, and make sure that you find that and do it
consistently,
and do it consistently.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a priority, to the sense that I remember when I first met Amber, 20 years ago, good night.
I bet it was a good night.
That was a year later, marriage.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you got me running off here now.
You said good night.
Good night.
Like, well,
but I lived off of, back in the day, Palm Pilots. You remember those things?
Palm Pilots, yeah.
The Palm Pilots, and then back when the G2 came out as well.
Was a Palm Pilot before the what was a blueberry?
Blackberry. The black and the better, the sweet and choose.
Yeah.
It was around the same time. Blackberry, those are, I think I still know somebody with a Blackberry. His name is Stan Schley out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. He lives down in Georgia.
Blackberry started making some other phones, I think, like a few years ago I saw.
Yeah,
they're horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anywho, but I lived off of this Palm Pilot, like everything. It was scheduled to the point where when we started dating, like I had to put it on the calendar, and it drove her down. You got to put me on the calendar. I put everything on the calendar. I put my time. And so it's important. I think I say that to say when something's a priority to you, you got to prioritize that and block it out. Family time, if there's a day or a family hour, whatever it is, where it's just nothing comes above this, right?
That's the strategy part.
It's the same for me. Like I don't miss games for my kid. I'll miss practice here and there, but I'll show up for the games. If I miss a game, he gave me permission to miss it, right? Because that's a priority to me, and I'm not going to miss it for a check or anything else unless my kid okays it. That's just my standard. And even then, there's a very low percent of the chances that I'll miss that because I'm showing up for him. Now that recharges me to see the passion in Dexter, right?
Yeah.
Dexter's passionate about something. He's excelling at something, dude. That recharges me in a sense to watch him. He's playing soccer on Saturdays. I get two things. I get outdoors, sun, right?
Yeah.
Birds and all these different things. And I get to watch him do something that he loves to do and enjoy. So whatever it is, make sure you're scheduling
that
great self-care, that activity. What this is recharge time, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. What brings me life?
Whatever brings you life.
Yeah.
Me time, whatever it is, whatever recharges you. Make sure that you're blocking that out. And that helps really manage the stress effectively and help maintains the healthy harmony in your life. Yeah. The healthy balance.
Well, I love what you're talking about because when we think about mental health, sometimes we think, it's got to be something mental. But mental health is also physical.
Yeah.
To what we talked about earlier, it's emotional, but physical, right? So getting sun in your eyes, like staying in the house with no sun and no light all day long.
Yeah.
I noticed it through the winter. You can see a lot of the seasonal depression and stuff increase because we're not getting the vitamin D. So your physical health impacts your mental health, your emotional health. You got to see yourself as a whole person. And you're not just a car with tires. You have an engine, you've got axles, you've got components that all work together to make you who you are. And all of those components aren't separable, right? Yeah. Like you can't say, well, I'm going to work out at the gym. And that's just going to help. That seems to be the motion on. But it's like we're able to physically impact in a positive way our mental health, through getting out, taking a walk. We do that here at the office, getting out of your chair. You might be listening to this right now and you've been in your chair all day. And I'm saying, grab your phone and watch this live on your phone and get outside and walk as you're watching the podcast every week. Like make Mondays during the podcast the time where you go outside and walk and listen to us, like that's kind of like crafting into your day.
Yeah.
Those ways of prioritizing your mental health through physical activity. There's times that we'll go over and do some push-ups or some jumping jacks, just a movement.
Yeah.
Moving your body is helpful. But again, when it becomes too great of a burden where you can't carry it yourself, whatever you're going through, that's those indicators that it's a good time to reach out for help.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because we can do everything that we can do to practice self-care. And there's still moments where we can't handle life.
Yeah.
We can't handle what we're going through. And that's okay. I liken it to like having a spotter in the gym.
Yeah.
You don't just get up underneath all the weight by yourself. You got a friend there, got the bar with you so it doesn't crush you.
Right.
And that's the idea is like, we don't want life to crush us. And so as we're talking about all this prioritizing self-care every day, also know that you can do all the things.
Yeah.
And it could still not be enough in the sense of what you need in the moment.
Right.
And so, yeah, having a structure and a strategy to say, if I deal with something I can't deal with, then this is who I'm turning to, or this is the avenue that I'm going to take in terms of getting help.
Yeah. I want to wrap up with a few things, especially on the checking in on yourself.
You want to take a break?
You got
Yeah.
Ryan's always got something up his sleeve here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure this is this is the craziest. Is it a come on?
This is the craziest shit in HR.
Craziest.
Yeah, this is
in HR.
And it's going to be brought to you by the culture of good. If I can get it going here. All right, let's see here.
While he's doing that, we're going to wrap up this session of the podcast, really with checking in yourself as an employee, as an individual, regularly. So we want to do that, but first,
this is going to be the craziest shit in HR. Brought to you by Culture of Good's 2-day Culture Champion certification on June 25th and 26th. That's coming up in a couple months. So early bird pricing for that's till May 1st. So if you want to sign up for that, great. And for those that are in the SHRM world, that's 12 hours of SHRM credit, which is really cool. This is the craziest shit in HR. Or maybe not. My computer's frozen.
I got you.
All right. All right, cool. All right, so check this out. This was a letter that a waiter received by a patron that was coming in.
Okay.
All right. Hello, my name is blank, but my friends call me Onion. That's my nickname. Please read this carefully before we begin the food ordering and preparation process. This is kind of long, so just bear with me, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So this is a letter they typed out and brought into the restaurant. Yeah. Okay. I have some very specific food requirements due to my psychosomatic food neurosis to make my dining experience more tolerable. Please read and follow the following very specific requests regarding my food and its preparation. Number 1, absolutely, positively no cheese.
Okay.
On my food under any circumstances. Now, when I say these words louder, it's because it's in all caps.
Okay.
Under absolutely, positively no cheese on my food under any circumstances. Anyway, I have wicked cheese neurosis, and any cheese on my food will trigger a very unpleasant reaction that could trigger vulgar language, food throwing, convulsions, ranting, raving, and in many cases, vomiting right there in the restaurant, or worse, explosive diarrhea. Believe me, you don't want to see, hear, or smell any of these things. Number 2, absolutely no pork chops. Please don't serve me or even suggest any pork chops. I have a very nasty experience with pork chops that caused me to have some kind of weird gallbladder. Please avoid pork chops at all costs. They will cause what my friends and family call code brown, which is an immediate explosive diarrhea event that you don't want in your establishment. And it just keeps going on and on. The next one is no tomatoes. He says, please, for everyone's sake, don't give me any tomatoes or any food that's touched tomatoes. Number 4, I love onions. That's why my nickname is Onion. If I order a sandwich, please only put bread, meat, and lots of onions on it. That's all I want. And remember, no cheese under any circumstances. No cheese. Thanks for taking the time to read this and come to an understanding of my food neurosis. By complying with my very specific food requirements, you will ensure all of us will have a much more pleasant dining experience. You will also boost your chances of a bigger tip and save both of us the bother of me asking to speak with the manager. That's the craziest shit in HR. I wouldn't even want to have a restaurant if I got that letter.
Oh, no. I mean, I do say this. I respect the details of forewarning.
Yeah.
Of any explosions.
Yeah. But warning diarrhea all over your restaurant is not a good way to walk.
As a waitress, or a waiter, do you handle that, or do you take that back to the kitchen?
I thought you were going to ask, do you hand them a roll of toilet paper?
I mean, to be clear, as a waiter, I think of like restaurants like Dick Glad's Resort, where they're very sarcastic.
Oh, they would have loved that.
God. It'd be hilarious.
He would have been destroyed in there.
Well, or brought a toilet, to the table.
Yeah.
Toilet paper. I can
Just
see a
in
lot of
case,
different things. You're rolling up all the paper that made the
Yeah.
hats, and here's a toilet that you can use
Right.
as a hat. That's pretty interesting.
I agree. I like the forewarning, but
Is that self-care?
Forewarning. Yeah, it's setting boundaries.
Yep.
Don't put cheese anywhere near me, or I'm gonna throw up all over your establishment.
Or tomatoes.
Anyway, maybe it's a good letter.
It is.
Maybe it's not the craziest shit in HR.
It's about perspective. No, the craziest thing that could happen is that something happened at the table and HR had to deal with it because the employee didn't
actually take
it all depends on the action of the employee.
Yeah.
The cheese or tomato touches sandwich.
Yeah.
Goodness. We'll never know.
Yeah, we won't. But I bet that restaurant knew.
Stay on board.
Sit down.
We want to encourage all those. We do have a lot of people within the HR space and leadership space. If you have a craziest shit in HR story that you would like to share with us, make sure you email us or DM us. If you want to keep it anonymous, you can remove all names and company information. We won't share those things.
Yeah,
but we
love
enjoy a lot of these conversations. Some of these things are coming to us from friends within the network, and so we enjoy those things and we keep those anonymous. But it's a special moment to share. Ryan enjoys them, so he likes to laugh and grow through those situations and be warned what not to do or where not to go.
Yeah,
as well. As we wrap up this episode, Ryan, we are getting close to 100. I don't know what we're gonna do about episode 100. We're knocking at the door, my friend. Here about a month or so, we'll be there.
We should do it somewhere else besides the studio.
We should do it somewhere special.
Yeah.
If you got a special place,
we'll come.
Let us know. We'll
you're not too far away. Anybody listening from a Caribbean island?
Yeah. Yep, that'd be great.
Shoot from Jamaica.
We'll promote your company and organization for sure. Let's end it with just some of these things again on checking in with yourself as an individual or as an employee. We talked about having those regular self-assessments.
Yep.
And setting aside that time to really evaluate the current state of your well-being, current state of your mental health, the satisfaction of it, and even the sense of fulfillment where you are in your job and or lack thereof.
Yeah. Your role is it still working for you?
Yeah. Reflecting on your role, reflecting on the RSVP, if we will, the strengths, the values, and the purposes.
Yeah.
The goals, the progress. Is there any progress in what you're doing, for yourself and within the organization as an employee? Remember, you are a person and then an employee. And so, what areas of concern are there?
Yeah.
That's part of that self-assessment. Are there concerns of are opportunities for growth? Are things holding you back? Is someone holding you back? The emotional check-in that it takes in as well, right? We talk about the physical, talk about the mental, emotionally as well, checking in, paying attention to your emotions, that fire before it becomes burning out, checking, what's causing those things, the feelings that you're having, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
What are these feelings? Because one of the things that's important, what you're feeling matters.
Yeah.
Right. It may not matter to other people. They may not feel like it matters, but how you feel and what you're feeling or going throughout your day, you got to be able to tune into those signs, whether it's stress, anxiety, if it's joy, whatever it may be. Like, those things matter. What's bringing that energy? What's bringing those feelings? Tapping into and asking yourself those things, and make sure you're noticing those emotions, whether it's negatively or positive emotions, and being able to identify the source. And consider, in a sense, the strategies to address them if they're negative.
Well, that's what I would say too, is there are no negative and positive emotions. It's just emotion too, because sadness isn't negative.
Yeah.
It just is an emotion. So if you think of it, it's not something that needs to be fixed necessarily.
That's good.
But I think just emotions are emotions. And I think it's important to recognize that we might actually have mixed emotions. So that's why it can't be negative, positive at the same time. I might have anger toward you, but also a deep sense of love and that's a mixed emotion in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just one straight emotion. Like we're dynamic in that way. Most people can identify like 4 or 5 emotions: happy, sad, angry, fear, that kind of thing. But in terms of the complexity of who we are, yeah, it's not a negative emotion to feel sadness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I like
saying?
that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You bring that up. Dr. Ryan here, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
Always helping.
definitely not a doc.
The doc of words.
The doc of
word. Another thing is self-care routines. We mentioned that, and establishing the self-care routines, seeking feedback,
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
It's value, feedback, whether it's, how I evaluate my emotions live here on air. Ryan evaluates emotions. It's not a feeling in the sense of negative or positive emotion. It's
just
emotion,
a feeling. It's just
right?
an emotion.
And
yeah.
so that's important. And so having support like Ryan, for me, I'm blessed that I have Ryan in my life now. If you want to be a part of his life and have that, you got to go through an interview process.
Well, just knowing this stuff is one thing, but living it's a whole nother, like applying it to your life, and that's, I mean, I struggle with that all the time, and that's something that I have to constantly be aware of.
Right.
It's not a self-awareness where it's like, I do this and now I'm self-aware.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is a state of ongoing effort. Like there's no moment where I'm just self-aware.
Yeah.
Because I'm changing, I'm evolving. Life is different. That's why we check in with our team every quarter. We need to check in with ourselves more than that.
Yeah.
Because we're evolving as people. Our role is changing. Our strengths and values might be evolving as we go throughout life. Our emotions might be different than they were before. Relationship, all of this is changing constantly. And for us to act like we're not is really it's just like it's just not really even seeing what's going on. And so I think being able to continue to check in those ways and to get that feedback from ourselves, but also from those that know us really well.
Yeah. I want to end just on the boundaries of work and life harmony. We talk about the balance of it, but I want to encourage people to set boundaries. I know a lot of people, whether it's people we coach, and or companies and organizations that we're doing leadership development. And one of the most important things we always say is, make sure there's boundaries between personal life and work. That helps to prevent those burnouts as well, and maintaining a healthy rhythm of what that looks like, and communicating. And I think the most important thing is communicating those needs, letting your leader know, letting your company know, but hey, this matters to me and it's important to me. It's a value. And I want to make sure that my value aligns with the company values. And ultimately, if it doesn't, then I encourage you to explore opportunities. Yeah. Right. Because it should mean something. Working and burning yourself out for the sake of a paycheck to pay bills and all these things. Listen, there's so many other opportunities and jobs out there.
Paychecks.
Seek something that's going to bring you health, that helps you change the dynamic of your perspective of life and what it means to fully live and live life abundantly for yourself and for your family. The people that you're stressing to make this money out for, they're rather
that you can't show up for.
They'll rather have you there showing up healthy, the best you, with what you have, versus not being available to them at all because you're burnt out or dealing with anxiety, stress, or depression, and God forbid, no longer here on earth. Right. Yeah. The most important thing is to have you. And so as you're evolving this mental health and being within that well-being and understanding what you need, I encourage you to show up for you, number one, and care for you, and love yourself. Understand who you are and what you want, where you're going, and who you want to be when you get there. Those are those 4 steps of self-leadership we built around, and giving yourself, more importantly, grace and love, and trust through that process, so that you can be able to lead the life that you love as well.
Yeah. And I would just kind of end with also like, not just what is the self-care practice, but what is the routine, and getting real practical in the sense of like, what becomes routine for me, is where I get my life from. Yeah. So consistency is going to produce, maybe not fully consistent results, but better results. Yeah. So how do I build a daily practice that becomes routine for me, the things that help to elevate my well-being, right? So in the morning, instead of like laying in bed looking at my phone for an hour before I get out, maybe it's healthier. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying maybe it'd be healthier to get up, get some stretching in. You know what I'm saying? Make the bed, move around a little bit, get to moving. Maybe it's some meditation. Yeah, get off get off of Snapchat. You know, like it's like, you know, just what's, because other things that we do become routine, right? Like it builds in. So how do we look at our day and say, okay, that's what I'm practicing daily?
Yeah.
And identifying those things that keep us either baseline healthy or they increase our well-being.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, okay, I got this day. Yeah. And identifying what those are and identifying those routines and saying, okay, how do I become more practiced in this, where it becomes daily?
Yeah.
And that's like expected. So I know I'm showing up for myself every day.
Yeah.
How are you showing up for you every single day?
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. We appreciate everybody watching us today. We encourage you. It's May Mental Health Awareness. If you don't have somebody, we know some people. We have numbers and contacts. If you're an organization that's looking for some more of these strategies, you can always reach out and we can give you what we do know. You can find out more about us and what we do at culturegood.com. I also want to reiterate June 25th, 26th. If you're looking to elevate your employee fulfillment and raise the standard of what culture means within your workplace, and doing that by allowing your employees to bring their soul to work, by doing good, not just internally, but externally as well in your community. You can find out more again, culturegood.com. It's on your screen. And until next time, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see you back next week on Champion Your Culture. Thank you for tuning in to Champion Your Culture. We hope today's episode has sparked new ideas and inspiration for your journey in leadership and cultural development.
Building a culture good is a collective effort. If you found value in conversations today, please subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on your favorite platform and share this episode with your friends and colleagues.
Your support helps us reach more people and spread the message of impactful leadership and positive cultural change. Don't forget to visit cultureofgood.com to explore how you can become a certified culture champion.
Every week, we're here to bring you insights and strategies that matter. So join us again for more empowering discussions. Let's continue to champion a culture of purpose and passion together.
Until next time, keep leading with heart and let's make a positive difference in the world. And we'll see you next week on Champion Your Culture.